Blog Talk Radio.
Do you do when you don't know? Just go and ask for do-de-o-do. Ahura Z will journey with you of all the places on
Ready
the
to save
show.
today.
What do you do when you don't know? Just go and ask for do-de-o-do. Ahura Z will journey with you of all the places others won't go.
This is Ask the Unicorn, live with Ahura Z, Elise, answering all your paranormal, metaphysical, and spiritual questions. Call us now at 718-664-9638. And now your host, Ahura Z.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ahura Z. This is Ask the Unicorn. I'm at your service. Now, normally I decide to do a topic, but tonight I'm going to just open the floor for questions in case there's something that you need to ask about anything of a paranormal nature, metaphysical nature, or a spiritual nature. I am ready to answer any questions whatsoever. Now, when I answer your questions, understand that you may have a difference of opinion from me. That's fine. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. And we can discuss almost anything. I would like for you all to think about the questions that you're going to ask before you ask them. And if you can't decide on a particular question, just write one down for now, and then we'll get to the others. If you need further help on things, because I only have about an hour, I will be happy to talk to you at another time, another occasion. Tell all of your friends that this is the place to get all of their metaphysical answers, things about paranormal, whether it be about investigation tactics, whether it be about the difference between spirits or ghosts or different parts of things that are known as paranormal. I'll be happy to answer anything, okay? That being said, I will open the floor now. Is there any questions?
The first question comes from Kelly. First off, she says, "Thanks for looking at my questions and all the work that you do. I think this is a great show." Her first question is, in regards to name numerology, if someone would like to legally change their name to something that has good balance to it, how would they go about finding the right name for them with the right numerology?
Well, first off, you don't really find a name. A name just kind of finds you. You know what I mean? One of the mistakes I believe that parents make is imposing a name upon a person without really thinking about it. You know, they will always want to name someone after their mother or after their uncle or their aunt or their grandmother, but, you know, it turns out to be the wrong expression for that child. Now, like you're talking about, a child usually gets to a point where they decide, hey, maybe this name just doesn't fit me at all. And if you're asking about things of a numerological nature, which you are, then we have to consider first picking a name, or the name being the name finding you, you know, and that may take inspiration from something that just comes along and says, hey, I believe that this is my true vibration or my true name. And then you don that name, and if you decide to get it changed legally, that works even better. And then we have to think about the numbers. Now, the numbers can be variable. They can vary depending on how you choose to spell your name. For instance, there are like 3 different ways to spell Sean, you know, and there are probably more ways to spell Eddie or something like that. But you know, you're going to have to be the one that decides what spelling of your name you want to live with, and then we can talk about the numbers later. Now, your numbers do change. They don't change dramatically, but they do actually change, because remember, in order to do numerology correctly, you're going to have to consider the birthday. You're going to have to consider the time of birth. You're going to have to consider where you were born. You're going to have to consider a whole lot of things. I myself am quite meticulous. I even consider your heart rate. I consider whether or not you're going to spell it a certain way. I consider your favorite colors. I consider certain things that you like to hear. Not everyone is meticulous as that, but if you're just doing a basic change of numerology, understand the numbers will change depending upon how you spell things. So how about we find a name first, or allow that name to find us first, And then later on, perhaps you can talk about, well, what does this mean neurologically? Now, your vibration is going to change the moment that you change your name. That's going to happen. But it also depends on whether or not those people around you can deal with that vibration, because your vibration as you're growing up depends on what you're called the most, or how people know you and how you know yourself. So understand that numerology is a very wonderful art, but at the same time it's very meticulous. So think about what you're going to call yourself before you actually do. And then we'll talk about the numbers later, okay?
She has a second, or rather third part to this question. She asks, and lastly, will name numerology affect animals or plants as well, not just people?
Well, if they affect people, then they affect everyone else. Like your pothos isn't going to turn into a gardenia because you changed the name of it. But it will be in relationship to you, how you address that plant or how you address that animal. And remember, animals and plants don't live by the same rules as we do. And it's a big mistake to believe that they do. We like to treat our animals like people, but animals are actually animals, and they have their own personality. They may do a lot to mimic the personality of the human, but an animal is an animal, and it's high time that people stop thinking of them as people. Because if you start thinking of them as people, you think that they're prone to the same habits as you are, the same thoughts and instincts as you are. And truthfully speaking, they are not. You know, they sympathize or empathize with you. And that's about as far as it goes. They relate to us because our thoughts are not clouded to them. Our thoughts are quite clear to them. It's their thoughts that are clouded to us. So if you decide to change the name of your cat, don't be surprised if your cat doesn't pay attention. Well, don't be surprised if your cat doesn't pay attention to you any more than it ever has. But you can't expect that cat to change their personality just because you want to change their name. So I'm going to be inclined to say, not really. It doesn't. Their nature doesn't change just because you want to rename them. I hope that helps. Now, are there other questions? Is there another question? Remember, no question is too complicated. I'll answer them all. I am actually the person that has the answers, and I'm not going to give you something airy-fairy or fluffy. I'm just going to give you the plain truth. I'm kind of like a farmer. I'll shoot straight from the hip. So if you have something that you really want to know, it's okay. I'm not going to tell anybody except for the people listening. But go ahead and ask your questions.
All right, this next question asks, most religions have stories about making sacrifices to God/gods. If we share bread, food, wine, or incense with God or other spirits, is that appropriate?
Well, that depends upon your belief. You can't. To ask me if it's appropriate is up to you, because of course there are stories in the Bible or in many other faiths, many other stories that have tales of people sacrificing to honor their God, and most people really don't do that anymore. But those that do usually just make an offering of food, like you say. So I would be inclined to say, of course, it's proper. I mean, it just depends on what your rules are, not everyone else's. Now, it looks like I have a caller on the line, and I'm going to open up the floor to this caller. Just a second. Good evening. I'm Ahura Z. I'm at your service.
Hi, this is Elise.
Hi, Elise. How are you?
Hi. I'm okay. How are you?
Good, good.
Good. I had this experience recently. I see a lot of different kinds of spacecraft in the sky, and I could tell that it's not of Earth because of the spiritual atmosphere of it. And we saw a helicopter in the sky when it was when my husband was coming out of the apartment to go to his car, and the helicopter started to follow him in the direction he was walking. And then I had a feeling that it wasn't of Earth, so I said to it, please show me what you really look like. And then I saw this big, giant, clam-shaped, like, spacecraft.
I see.
And I was wondering if this is like a spiritual phenomena or an interdimensional phenomena, and are they doing this to protect us in some way, or do you know?
Well, that's a really good question. First off, I consider everything spiritual. Everything that is involved with the spirit is spiritual, and that's all forms of life. I'm going to put you on mute just for a second here because I'm getting a little feedback over on your side.
Oh, okay.
But it's okay. It's all right. But I am going to go ahead and answer your question. Everything is spiritual, and I think that you brought up a very, very, very good point. The fact that we in the United States have not just openly admitted that there are visitors that have come to our planet and that do come to our planet, and just back it with some real not only evidence but real history, is absurd. Everyone knows that you can't have all of these planets out there just for the satisfaction and entertainment of us. I mean, you're talking about a myriad of planets out there that have their own forms of life, and whether or not I'll say popular science decides to acknowledge that is kind of absurd. You know, there are so many sightings and so many people who see things and so many people that have witnessed different extraterrestrial sightings all of this time that it's almost absurd not to just go ahead and admit it. Other countries have admitted it. Other places have admitted it. I mean, we live in a beautiful and wide universe, or at least a solar system. And there's a lot of planets there, and there's a reason for them. And they do have life, whether or not we choose to acknowledge it. So it doesn't surprise me that you're seeing things. It doesn't surprise me that they would be just as curious about who you are as they are about themselves, or we are about them. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you would see that. Actually, I've seen a few things myself, and I've spoken to people at length that have seen many things themselves. And the fact that you said that clamshell thing kind of sounds like something I've seen, you know. And but I will tell you this: at the moment that I did see it, it made me realize just how small we humans actually are, you know, because there's so many different beings that have technology far beyond ours, and there may be even beings out there that don't have the technology. As a matter of fact, you may have been speaking to aliens for years and not even known it. And I apologize for those that actually are, that listen to me say things like alien, because that's kind of rude, because you're probably here long before us humans were. We humans are probably the newest species in the universe, but we're always looking at everyone else and calling them alien.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know, so if we look at the fact that there is someone who actually lit the fuse for the Big Bang, then I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge and validate your particular finding, and acknowledge the fact that there are other beings in this wide universe, and they don't always have to look like us. But I think it's funny that we demand that they do, if they don't look like us, then we think that there's something else. The truth is, there are no aliens in our solar system. This is our solar system, therefore we are all family, whether we choose to acknowledge that or not. So I would say that they're not only helping us, perhaps we are helping them. And at some point in time, I hope they quit hiding, because it's kind of dumb. You know, especially if they're supposed to be so advanced. If you're so advanced, quit hiding. We know you're here. I mean, great. There's a great clear sky, and there's one poof of clouds in the middle of the sky, and that's not trying to hide anything? You mean all of the giant noises that we hear that we know are not thunder are not? It's not trying to hide anything. You know, you can hear a big whoosh outside, and you go out there, and there's nothing there. And then someone looks at you and says, "Well, no, it's just a spacecraft." Oh, and by the way, for you skeptics, and I hope you're listening, I really do. Listen. I've heard people say things like, well, that's not what a spacecraft looks like. If you don't know what a spacecraft looks like, you shouldn't be talking about what it doesn't look like. The fact is there are many people that see things, and you have to validate what they're saying. It doesn't matter what you believe in and what you don't believe in. It matters what these people are seeing. And, I myself have seen something. So for someone to come and try to challenge my belief, they'll find a giant wall, because I don't really believe in anything. I either see it or I don't, or I know that it exists or I don't. And that's the best policy for anybody, because you can believe, but that belief is only supposed to get you to the point of knowledge. And at that point, your belief is irrelevant. Wow. And by the way, some of these species have been around for millions and millions of years. Therefore, the pre-existence of these people negates your belief or disbelief. It doesn't matter what you believe. They were already here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, if you can sit up and believe that Columbus was a hero, which we know he wasn't, then why can't you believe in aliens? Why can't you believe that they're a spacecraft? Oh, and by the way, when you see these things up in the sky, I wouldn't just look in the sky. I'd look to the water, too, because I know that one of the fastest ways to travel is in a hydrogen-based propulsion system. So, you kind of have to look to the sea, too, which is really interesting. I hadn't thought about that until about 12 years ago. And I saw something actually come out of the water, and I said, well, that makes sense. I mean, wouldn't water be just the opposite of outer space? You could still create a slipstream.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So, I don't doubt at all that you've seen something, Elise. And I do appreciate you bringing that up.
I've been seeing them for years, since I was a kid.
Yeah, I've seen them, lots of times. And you sit there and you ask the same dumb question every time you see something. What was that? Even though you know what it is, you can see your thing is, what was that? And then you tell someone, hoping that they'll understand, but usually you have to approach them with, I saw something. You just tell them what you saw.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if they do decide to appear one day, we won't shoot them or do something stupid like that or try to dissect them or anything like that, because I think they've been here for quite some time. Anyway, I need to get to my next question. I do thank you.
Thank you for answering.
And hope to see you soon. No problem at all. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, I'm Ahura Z, and I'm going to take a short break right now, but during this particular break, what I'm going to do is play a beautiful song for you, and that particular song is called Sun and Moon.
Hoping I can bring you something. Let me make your fear go away, and I'll bring you a time that's called day. Can't you hear the sweet song? Don't you know the wind's never wrong? What was cold my gaze can make warm. I can push the dark storm from my way. Tell me, what is my name? What is my name? Is it just a moment in time you can remember when we were best friends? Yeah.
Fast asleep, and you tell me the truth in your
even at night, if you can remember my life.
You will always know that I'm there, and you'll never be frightened again. Tell me what is my name? What is my name? He said you're the world and inside you can't remember when we were young. Tell me what is my name? What is my name? See if you can hear the sweet language we spoke when we were all the same. Tell me what is my name? By the power given to me, and through the light that lives deep inside me, and in the nature of those who've made all things, I am. From the light I will create my armor. The subtle beam of the moon will change me. And when I emerge, only earth will be my witness that I am. I Where once I failed, I will find my success. I'll bring to light what was once in darkness. And when fathers sing, and when mother raises a hand, I am. And in my mind, I will know victory. In my heart, I will know peace. In my life, I will know destiny. And my soul is a shining sword. If wills, I will stand beside her. When comes the time, I'll defend her honor. And when the wind brings me forth a pair of wings, I am.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. That particular song, I Am, goes out to Kelly. I hope you enjoyed the song. If anyone has another request of some of the songs that we have created here, that is from Pisces Project. And if you have any of the other songs that you would like to hear and you'd like to make a request, I'll be more than happy to play them for you. That is from our opera album. And we also have the Planets album, Tai Chi, and we have Ahura Z. For those of you that like something a little more upbeat, just let me know and we will find it and play it for you. We may not get to it right away, but I promise you we'll play your request. Now, those were good questions that were asked earlier, and we're going to move on to some other questions. Right now, I'm looking at my assistant, the illustrious Kazi. And what do you have?
The next question is from Marina, and she asks, if we were created from the divine in the beginning, how did ego, jealousy, and hatred come about?
That's a really good question, Marina. And the truth is that jealousy, hatred, and envy and all of those wonderful things came about because we were given one more commodity, and that was called free will. No one can really tell us what to think. I mean, they can't force us to think anything. And I think this is probably one of the best acts of benevolence that there is to give the person freedom to think on their own. Unfortunately, it has been proven time and time again that when left to our own designs, we not only think beautiful and positive things, we also think very negative things. And perhaps in thinking those negative things, we kind of test ourselves to see if we can get back to the original thought. And remember, there was no good or evil in the beginning. There was a split somehow, and those two things took on lives of their own. But very, very good question. Perhaps you can ask yourself one of those questions, like, why do I think the way that I think? Sometimes I think very, very positively, and sometimes I think very negatively. But why would I think negatively if I am part of the divine? Remember, one doesn't know light unless one knows darkness, and perhaps you merely have to see the darkness in order for you to know that light solidly. So perhaps you have to see jealousy, hatred, in order to know love and peace. I hope that helps. All right. I like questions like that. If you all have other questions, I'd be more than happy. That was Marina. What do we have next?
Next question is from Heath. He asks, I would like to ask Z what his thoughts are about life tests. Does he believe that we have tests to pass or fail in each life that we live? If yes, what does he believe the purpose of those tests to be?
Do I believe that we have life tests in each incarnation? And if so, what would be the purpose of those tests? I think we do have life tests, and those life tests don't necessarily have to be an agreement made before. Sometimes the tests come in living. Remember, there's always something to surmount, whether it be a positive test, whether it be a negative test. I think the word test is kind of inappropriate because we learn that in school, and unfortunately most of our schools are failing when it comes to real education because they put children on the spot by saying things like, you either pass or fail this particular test, when the truth is there really is no pass or fail. We have decided to impose that upon ourselves. We can either adapt or not adapt. We can grow or not grow. We can surmount or not surmount. That's up to us. Unfortunately, there are things that have become so difficult sometimes that we look at them as tests. So we fix our minds to believe that perhaps God is testing us, or perhaps life is testing us. Life might be testing you, but, it's the same way as if you want to see if you can reach that coconut up there that you need in order to eat it so that you can survive. Is that really a test, or is it just a matter of course? And if it is a matter of course, then we have a choice. That choice is to take that test, quote unquote, or not take that test. I think the purpose for any test is for us to grow, or to reveal some part of ourselves that will help us to grow. Remember, the main course is evolution. I always hear people say spirituality versus evolution, and there is no versus there. Spirituality is evolution, and evolution is spirituality. I have to go back to one of the first things that my teacher taught me, and that is spirituality is reality. And reality is you have to evolve. You have a choice, evolve or de-evolve. And if you're de-evolving, that's not living. So I kind of look at it this way. Those things that we call tests, if you want to call them tests, that's wonderful. But take the pass or fail off of them and just decide that you're going to go onward and upward and you're going to meet the challenges that come to you daily. You have to meet those challenges daily. And if you choose to take a positive note about them, good for you. That means that you've done what you said that you were going to do, which is, in your words, pass the test. If you decide to meet them with negativity, there's no way you can pass anything. But this is Heath that I think about. I think you're well equipped in order to pass those kinds of tests in life. You just have to make a decision to. And the purpose for them? Growth. Always. Evolution. No matter what. I hope that helps you. Now, speaking of evolution, I need to say just a brief thing, a very, very brief thing. I'm going to try to make it brief at least, but, I've heard that this is my radio show, so I can say pretty much anything I want to. I need to say something about this whole government shutdown thing. Okay? I think it's absolutely absurd. If I don't go to work, I get fired. And all of you can say the same thing. If you don't go to work, you get fired. What makes Congress think that they don't have to go to work and still want to get paid? Unfortunately, they believe so, and then they turn around and try to blame it on someone else. Listen, it was Congress that was responsible for shutting the government down. Nobody else has the blame. I know that a lot of politicians are very, very polite about it, but I'm not going to be polite about it. I think it was absolutely stupid, and you all deserve to be fired. Either go to work or you don't have a job. That's the way that I see it. Don't make the rest of life hard for us. Don't make things more difficult than they absolutely are. It's great. If you're unhappy with Mr. Obama, that's your problem. But the fact is he's a president and can make a law. Now shut up and get to work. Okay. That's all I have to say about that. Normally I'm a very pleasant person, but I've been forced to learn about politics. I don't like politics, but because of my current situation, the current situation of the country, I feel as though I'm being forced to deal with political issues. I don't like it. But that was just my message to Congress, and I hope they heard me loud and clear. Now, if we have other questions, I'd like to get on to them. Okay, what do you got for me?
The next question is, are there malevolent aliens as well as benevolent ones?
Yes, the malevolent ones are called Congress. No, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
And if so, how do you suggest that people protect themselves against things that are more advanced and experts at camouflage?
Good question. Who asked that? That was a good question.
That was Teus.
Okay. Teus, there are malevolent spirits, and you've known that because I've taught you about that for 10 years, so it's kind of a silly question. But on the other end, the part of how to protect yourself against them, there are many, many steps to protect yourself against them. You have to pay attention. This is the main thing. You have to be aware of what's going on around you and going on with those people that are in your environment. You can't just pass things off because they seem, innocent. One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen made is for a person to be sitting in a clock tower, shooting at everyone, and everyone says, well, he was just such a nice fellow, or the parents say, well, he must have been brainwashed. No, there was something wrong with that particular person, and someone wasn't paying attention. Now, if we're talking about good and malevolent aliens, I would imagine that they're the same as we are. There are good people and there are malevolent people. It just depends upon their nature. You can always walk up to one of them and say, are you a good spirit or a bad spirit? That's up to you. But I would think that the duality exists all throughout life until it doesn't exist anymore. But if it doesn't exist anymore, then there's a pretty good chance that you won't ever be visited by it or visit it. So the best thing that you can do to protect yourself, be aware and then take necessary steps. If you know that someone is evil, don't make an excuse for them and just say, well, he's evil right now, but, maybe he's having a bad day or a bad life. No. If you know that they're doing really bad things, stay away from them. Period. Stay away. And this happens a lot in relationships that I've witnessed, and I think it's tragic. I'll listen to this young lady talk about how bad she was treated by this guy, and then she'll say, well, I don't think it's his fault. When a person becomes evil or they decide to do evil acts, it is always their fault. Okay? You may make a mistake or you may have a bad day, but usually those people have consciences. You don't just sit and keep doing things over and over again. And for you young ladies to say, well, I need closure. I know what that's about. What you need to do is just recognize the fact that there are good and bad people and just be done with them. And don't try to be friends with someone who can't be your friend when they were in a relationship with you. But that's a whole nother subject. The question was about malevolence versus benevolence. And there is always going to be that particular thing. When it's not, I'd love to be there so that I can celebrate it. So just be aware of your environment and your environments. And when you are aware that someone is being good or evil, act on it. Pay attention to it. Do something with them. Get with those people that you think are a positive influence and get away from those that you think are not. You don't have to wait for someone, and don't let someone else talk you into it. Make your own decision. I hope that helps. Now I'm going to take a brief break just to let you all understand the information so that you can call in and so that you know where to call and ask your questions. Okay? I'll be back momentarily. I'm Ahura Z, and I'm at your service.
You're listening to Ask the Unicorn, live with Ahura Z. Delisa, answering all your paranormal, metaphysical, and spiritual questions. Call us now at 718-664-9638 to speak with Ahura live on the air. If you have a personal matter that you would like to discuss with Ahura in more detail, he offers telepathic readings and telepathic spiritual counseling sessions by phone and Skype. Ahura also teaches private classes in an array of subjects online using Skype video. For more information on classes and services with Ahura, please visit Unicorn Cove School of Metaphysics online at www.unicorn-cove.com. And now back to Ask the Unicorn.
I'm sorry.
All right. Here we are. We're back again. I was just listening to Kazi babble to me in the back, and that she likes to do, and that's fine. For those of you that don't know, we'll be on weekly, and I'm thinking about doing a different show. If you would like for us to do another show, let us know with your feedback. We can be found on Facebook, and you can put your likes on there, and we'll be happy to think about doing another show. For those of you that would like to ensure that Ask the Unicorn can do different shows and have different guests on, perhaps you might want to even go to our website and make a donation. It helps us. You can help us help you. Now, I'm going to open the floor again for more questions. If there's anyone that would like to ask any kind of a question whatsoever, feel free. I will be happy to answer them as long as they have to do with paranormality, metaphysical natures, mystical natures, or that kind of nature. What do we have, Kazi?
Next question is from Serena. She asks, your caller, Elise, mentions the idea of interdimensional life. Are there points of intersect between interdimensionality and extraterrestrial/interplanetary life?
Definitely. Definitely. And you probably have been a part of one of those interdimensional realities. Remember, the Earth is, our third dimensional Earth is only one part of the entire equation. There could be thousands of Earths, thousands of realities, and each time you make a decision, there could be 1,000 other different dimensions. Remember, we are multidimensional beings. We don't just fill one single space. Otherwise, there would be there'd be absolutely no movement. You have to take into consideration that there have been beings here long before we were. And then there'll be beings here long after we're here. And, you know, I think it's really interesting that we're just now getting to multidimensional thought en masse. In other words, even science has to admit, look, something's out there, whether we want to believe it or not. The Earth is not flat, nor is it a crescent cookie. But there's those other ones that are sitting out there saying, oh, no, that's not real, that's not real. Listen, the moment that someone tells you that something that you know that you've seen is not real, you need to turn the other cheek and walk away from them, because that person just wants to fool you, okay? Remember, when we're talking about things of a multidimensional nature, we are talking about life. You have more than one choice. That in and of itself proves that life is a multidimensional experience. You have a left and you have a right. You have an up, down, inside, and out. Therefore, life is multidimensional. The third dimensional reality that we have decided to seat ourselves in is just the one that is prevalent to us. However, if you have a brain, you will try to develop the other parts of them. The other dimensions, there are a multitude of dimensions. Even those things that we like to call dreams, that science says, oh, it's just mind stuff. If there are things that are mind stuff, then why did some of them happen? You know, why did some of them happen? Others manifest themselves in other ways. Other dreams will manifest themselves in such a way that we can avoid something happening. People don't just interpret things that are just mind stuff. Oh, yeah, they do. They call those psychotherapists, just psychobabble. You know, the truth is that everything that you will do will be multidimensional, no matter what it is. If I ask you, what do you like, apples or oranges, and you give me one answer, but then you make a choice to do something else, you've just become multidimensional. Now, on a cosmic level, what you're talking about is dimensional realities, and dimensional realities exist all the time. Those are those moments where you think that you've had a deja vu experience, or those other things that you remember someone from somewhere, but you can't really place it. Those are just those moments where those curtains they become really thin, and you become really close to those other dimensions. One of those examples is what we call shadow people. Now, most shadow people are actually living beings that are just living in a different reality. A ghost doesn't have a shadow. If there was something dead, because you hear all these horror stories, and that's great. That's great. People have their horror stories. But did it ever dawn on someone that maybe the reality that other person that you're looking at, that you call a shadow, is living in, is looking at you and thinking that you're a shadow at the same time because of the way that the light hits you in your particular dimension? And the curtains just became so remarkably thin that you barely could see each other, so you see this person standing there. That person is standing there looking at you, looking at them. That is usually a living being. That is not a ghost. A ghost has no shadow. Neither does a spirit, not unless they are encased in something tangible, i.e. a body. So, to answer your thing about multidimensionality, and oh yes, definitely, there are always multidimensional crossings. There are juxtapositions even. You could be doing the exact same thing as another exact you is doing in another dimension. There's even ways to communicate with those selves. Someone once called it quantum jumping, or quantum leaping. Whatever it is actually a reality. The truth is you can communicate with other parts of yourself. Which brings about another thing, because people always talk about past lives. Well, what they don't know is that there are also future lives. Remember, in order for you to have a past life, you have to have a past that begins and is going somewhere. In order for you to have your present life, that means there has to be a time stream that takes you to the future. So that future life must exist somewhere as well, which brings me back to one point, which is the now. It's all just a giant echo. And you know something? I'm glad that there is a dimensional reality. Otherwise, we couldn't think the way that we think. We might just be stodgy people that have one way of thinking and never really get to evolution. So I hope that helps you. Okay, it looks like I have a caller.
Tony.
And that's fine. That's Tony. He's in our room right now. We'll get to talk to Tony in just a little bit. But before then, do I have another question?
Yes. Yes.
What do you got?
This next question is from Michelle, and she asks, an important person in my life passed suddenly, then my brother passed suddenly. How do I know they are both at peace? How can I reach them? Let them know I love them and miss them.
You just did. Okay? That particular question says you just did. All you have to do is talk. Remember, there's no seance that is going to do it for you. You are the one that has to do it. You can just say to them, I mean, listen, just because they've lost their body doesn't mean that they've lost everything. I mean, and I understand it's difficult for you to understand that, but just talk to them. You don't need a medium to sit there and tell you, well, this person is asking you about the brown duck that you stored in the closet. No, you don't need anything like that. You can just sit with yourself, concentrate on that person, and talk to them yourself. Just understand that if you're going to do an actual communication where you want them to talk back, you need to have an expert there. And there are some good mediums that do that particular part. But just to let someone know that you love them and that you care about them and that you will not forget them and hope that they are in a beautiful place or in a better place that will help them, that takes just your sincere thought. That really is all it takes. And besides, you know people that are quite capable of letting you know, yes, they're in a better place. They're in a place that will be right for them. Hope that helps. All right, let's go to Tony. How you doing, Tony?
I'm good. How are you, Z?
Good, good. What can I do for you this evening?
Well, I wanted to know what is a good metaphysical exercise to boost memory and awareness?
Remember that our brains are responsible for memory. So if you just do something that is repetitious, one of the things that you can do is just find a regiment that you can do over and over again. I've given you some of them, but there's one that you can do that's very, very simple. If you just take one bowl of water, a simple bowl of water, and just say to yourself things that you need to remember, like you're looking in that bowl of water like it's going to be the one that remembers for you. Just dip your hand in the bowl of water. Think about something that you need to take care of, and then remove your hand. Do that about 10 times a day. Excuse me. Your memory will improve. See, when it comes to memory, people oftentimes think that they need concentration. It's not concentration that you need. It's focus. Most of us lack focus. Okay, so if you just take a moment and do that particular exercise, it'll help you out. But if you do something repeatedly, over and over again, it's bound to stick. The only problem is you want to make sure that you're repeating the right thing. Okay, because you've repeated, you've heard these music. It's one of those things. You can get a song stuck in your head. Like I got the most ridiculous song ever stuck in my head one day, and it was a song about I got the moves like Jagger, and I couldn't get it out of my freaking head. Okay, so you kind of want to concentrate on the right thing, okay, and do that exercise over and over again, and sure enough, your focus will improve.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so that should help you. And besides, you shouldn't have too much problem focusing. You're a pretty focused guy. So I hope that helps you out.
It should. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for calling, Tony. All right, so we're going to move on to another question. If there's a problem that's going on in your life, I'll answer those personal questions as well. Okay, if you have something that you really need help with, it, I'll be happy to help you. All you have to do is ask. Remember, I am a telepath, and if you know a telepath, you don't waste time asking about crescent cookies or orange juice. Okay? So I'll open up the floor to those kinds of questions as well.
This next question comes from Marina, and she asks, why do I sometimes feel emotional and start crying during meditation?
You know, that's a good question as well. Sometimes people get emotional and start crying because they feel something different. We, as human beings, and in our educational system, don't get taught the finer arts of things, or the finer qualities of things. In other words, you don't get taught about emotions. You don't get taught the difference between emotions and feelings, so oftentimes you may confuse them. If you're doing a meditation, that meditation has nothing to do with anyone but yourself and your communication with Divine Spirit, and therefore it may cause something to well up on the inside of you. And that is called feeling. Why? Because there's nobody else involved. But your response may seem emotional, and you don't have another word for it. Remember this, an emotion always has to do with what someone did or didn't do, or what they gave you or didn't give you, or said or didn't say. It always has to have someone else that's involved in your life. Whereas a feeling is born of a compellence of your own spirit. And since that spirit may compel you to just feel something on the inside that you're not really sure of, your body's reaction doesn't really understand that. So it just goes into either crying or laughing or something else. You know, so that's what that is. So if you're feeling that, my suggestion would be for you to just let it flow without even worrying about what's going on, okay? Just let it flow. Let your body react the way that it wants to react, okay? As long as you're not harming or hurting anybody, that's fine. But you're going to do that sometimes. You'll find yourself getting a little choked up. I've been outside and just saw this beautiful sunshine, this wonderful sunrise, and just got compelled to drop to my knees and just started crying. And, you know, that's not something that a guy like me always wants to admit, but, you know, it was just something that I felt on the inside because I couldn't decide if it was really, really beautiful, or I couldn't decide if, you know, there was something that was just making me do that, or, you know, was it the air? Did it feel particularly wonderful that particular day? You know, so that's something that your body will have to deal with, okay? But remember, if there's nobody else involved, it really doesn't have to do with an emotion. It has to do with what you're feeling on the inside, and your body is only limited in its reactability or in its reaction. Okay, so it's good that you could read something like that meditating. Very good. And again, I hope that helps. All right, is there another question?
Yep.
I've got time for a few more.
This next one is from Heath again. He said, I read Z's first book and put it to practice. It has helped me tremendously to reconnect with myself. When is Z's next book coming out?
I don't know. I'll ask him. You know, I'm actually working on another book, and I'll have to let you know a little more about what's going on with that particular book. I've had a lot to do these last couple of years, and I do appreciate the fact that you've read the book, and I hope you did really like it, and I'm glad if you did. The next book will be better, and it will probably be bigger. So thank you, brother. But I will ask thee. All right. Are there any other questions? Does someone have a problem that's going on in their life that I can help you fix?
Yep, this next question comes from Bree, and she says, I find most of my friends in crisis lately, and I have empath tendencies. I am finding it hard to deal with people sucking the life out of me. How can I protect myself from energy vampires?
Stop offering yourself to be sucked. Stop offering your life to be sucked out of you. That's the best thing that you can do. If you're having problems yourself, you really don't need anyone else tugging on you. So you've got to learn to protect yourself. Okay? And if you know that these people are having a lot of problems, do what you can to bring them some matter of positivity, but not at risk to your own well-being. And if, Rhea, if I know you, you have a tendency to do that. You will sit there even when your blood is draining right out of your body and try to give someone a pint of it. You know, you've got to find a way to take care of yourself first, or at least take care of yourself at the same time, so that you don't stop what you're doing to take care of this person. If you want that person to truly be helped, then you've got to tell them to get up off of their keister and help themselves at the same time as you're helping them. Remember this. There's an old saying that says, you know, before you can, you can either teach a man to fish or you can feed them. I believe that you have to do both. You have to not only feed them, but you have to teach them. Because if you don't feed them, they won't have the strength to learn anything. And if you don't teach them, you'll only have to feed them again. So what you have to do is help them along while you're marching. In other words, don't lower yourself, bring them up. If they're willing to come up, fine. If they're not, then you've got to leave them there. Okay, until they finally see the light by your example. Okay, so you can't just say that people are sucking the life out of you. You are enabling them to. So onward and upward. I hope that helps. All right, is there another question?
Yep, this next question is from Brad. He says, hey guys, I have a question. I just heard the emergency alert system thing come on the radio. Just wondering if Z knows the reasoning behind why they chose those tones.
I think that they choose tones because tones are frequencies, and mostly when you hear a certain alert sound along with the voices as this is a test of the emergency broadcast system, you automatically jump into your fight or flight mechanism. And when you hear those tones over and over and over again, they mean something to you. For instance, someone who's never heard them before would merely hear tones. But since you know what they are, they cause you to alert. Find out what the alert system is about. Why is it doing what it's doing? You know, so like I said, it's all about awareness. Some sounds can alert you. Some sounds just make you relax. And I'm sure that many of their scientists have studied this and choose certain sounds to cause alarm in people. So that's how that is. All right. I hope you all have had a wonderful time. I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone's question. I will make sure that I do get to all of your questions. I only have an hour, and like I said, if you'd like to see a longer show, you've got to let me know. If you'd like to see a different show, you've got to let me know. I would be more than happy to accommodate you, mainly because this is kind of fun. And I do like doing what I do the best, and I do nothing better than help people. So until next week, I'm going to say adieu, and I hope that you all have enjoyed my show. I am Ahura Z. This is Ask the Unicorn. And as I always say, I am always at your service. Until next week, have a wonderful day.
You've been listening to Ask the Unicorn, live with Ahura Z. If you have a personal matter you need help with, Ahura offers private telepathic readings and telepathic spiritual counseling sessions by phone and Skype. Ahura also teaches private classes in an array of subjects online using Skype video. You can learn more by visiting Unicorn Cove School of Metaphysics online at www.unicorn-cove.com. If you have a question you would like to hear Ahura answer on a future episode of Ask the Unicorn, you can email it to questions@asktheunicorn.com. Ask the Unicorn broadcasts live every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Blog Talk Radio. www.blogtalkradio.com/asktheunicorn.
Do you do when you don't know? Just go and ask for do-de-o-do. Ahura Z will journey with you to all the places on the go. What do you do when you don't know? Just go and ask for do-de-o-do. Ahura Z will journey with you to all the places others won't go.